Blind black girl, mocked by famous pianist. Then she played a song that stunned the world. She's blind, she's black, and she's about to ruin a $150,000 Steinway. Get her off. An insult. Under the dazzling lights, beneath the polite laughter of the upper class, the world nearly missed a miracle. A gripping and dramatic story is unfolding. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss any of our powerful and emotional stories to come. It was the final rehearsal for the World Peace Music Gala, held at New York's grandest concert hall, a place where every note had to be perfect, every step choreographed. On stage stood Amanda Brown, a 16-year-old girl, black and blind from birth, wearing a simple black dress, holding a white cane. No applause, no introduction, no one beside her. The auditorium fell into absolute silence, not out of respect, but out of doubt and discomfort. And then, from backstage, a voice rang out. Not from a drunk audience member, not from a stranger, but from Oliver Johnson, a master pianist, a legend of classical music, a man whose slightest frown could ruin a career. He didn't yell. He declared, as if stating a fact, "She's going to ruin the piano." Who let her on stage? This is art, not a charity show. A few scoffs floated through the audience. A few heads nodded in agreement. The rest stayed silent. The most frightening kind of silence. Complicity. But Amanda didn't turn back. She paused for just 1 second, then took another step. A small step, but resounding. The step of someone who's used to being pushed aside, but never stopped stepping forward. And then she sat down before the Steinway. No one stopped her, but no one encouraged her either, as if the entire world was waiting for her to fail. Amanda said nothing. She simply placed her hands on the keys. And in that moment, every prejudice stood still. Because what was about to be heard was no longer music. It was the response of a soul long forgotten. Not all miracles shine bright. Some emerge from the darkness and touch our hearts through the very silence we once scorned. Amanda didn't respond to the insult. She didn't bow her head. She didn't walk away. She simply sat down. Her small hands explored the cold wood surface of the Steinway and Son's D274, a piano usually reserved for the carefully chosen elite. But today, it rested beneath the fingers of a girl no one had welcomed. No eyes followed her with kindness. But in that moment, it was the weighty silence itself that became Amanda's first audience. And then, a note rang out. Not strong, not flashy, but deep. A single note, like a sigh that had been held back for years. What followed was a stream of sound, not meant to show off technique, but as if each note was a whisper from a place where light had never reached. Each keystroke from Amanda lacked the sharpness of academic perfection, but they were real. So real that the sound engineer froze, the cameraman forgot to adjust the frame, and Oliver Johnson, the man who had once shaken concert halls with his masterful hands, suddenly felt a chill down his spine. Because what Amanda played wasn't music. It was truth. Truth buried beneath layers of prejudice. Truth about nameless talents, abandoned simply because they didn't belong. And today, that truth found its voice. A woman in the front row bit her lip. A judge turned the ring in his fingers, no longer looking at his notes. A sound assistant held his breath, as if any sound from him might shatter something sacred. Amanda kept playing, eyes closed, not because she was blind, but because she was listening, not to the piano, but to herself. Music can be hidden beneath technique, but truth cannot. Amanda doesn't need to prove anything, because she is the proof. No one knew Amanda Brown had entered the world of music through the back door. 2 years ago, on a freezing winter morning, a social services bus pulled up in front of the Curtis Institute of Music, a prestigious conservatory reserved for musical prodigies backed by the biggest names, from multi-million-dollar endowments to descendants of legendary composers. And Amanda? 16 years old, black, blind since she was 3 months old, orphaned of both parents. Her only possessions were an old white cane and a cracked braille reader. She had no outstanding transcripts, no music competition trophies, no powerful sponsors. She was only accepted through an experimental program called Silent Observer, noble in name, but in reality, a ticket without a seat. No formal classes, no assigned instructor, not allowed to touch the instruments. Amanda became a shadow, drifting through the hallways where the elite students practiced Chopin with private tutors, played sonatas on gleaming Steinway pianos. She never complained. Every day, Amanda sat quietly outside room 2B, where Professor Liam Smith lectured on music theory and harmonic analysis. She listened through the slightly ajar door, catching every keystroke, every spoken explanation, every tap of chalk on the board. She learned to feel rhythm from the sound of footsteps leaving the room. She took notes by drawing musical symbols on her thigh with her finger. She felt music through echoes bouncing off stone walls, through the vibration of wooden floors when someone struck a bass note too hard. In a place where others learned through light, Amanda learned through darkness. In a place where others learned to pass exams, she learned to survive. Each day, when the dismissal bell rang, the top students rushed out, avoiding her gaze, as if afraid her presence might taint the artistic air of the institution. And just like that, Amanda remained there in silence, day after day, learning music in the only way no one could forbid her, by listening. Curtis didn't expel her, they just built invisible walls. But Amanda learned to listen through them. At Curtis, no one hit Amanda. No one pushed her down. No obscene slurs were ever spoken to her face. But sometimes, the cruelest form of cruelty comes wrapped in silence. She became a familiar ghost in the marble hallways, her white cane tapping against the floor amid the flowing piano notes, and the occasional laughter of students practicing Brahms in soundproof rooms. One winter evening, Amanda accidentally stepped into a practice room where the lights were still on. She heard the piano from a distance and assumed the class wasn't over. She just wanted to get closer, to listen more clearly. The door opened, and the music stopped. Then a male voice, mocking and icy, rang out after a stifled giggle. Thought this was the guide dog kennel. Someone burst into laughter. A female voice added sarcastically, "If she can't see, I bet she can't even hear what a chord sounds like." Amanda stood there, saying nothing, not reacting. She simply pulled her hand quietly back from the door, then turned away, step by step, each tap of her cane like an instrument accompanying humiliation. No one followed her. No one apologized. She told the dorm supervisor, a woman named Janice, always impeccably made up, but who never looked Amanda in the eye. Janice responded coldly, "Amanda, this is a professional environment. Please don't make others feel uncomfortable." Uncomfortable? No one seemed uncomfortable mocking a blind girl. They only felt uneasy when she dared to exist in a place they believed wasn't meant for her. Amanda didn't cry. She didn't rage. She didn't ask for sympathy. Instead, she began memorizing every laugh, every voice, then learned how to turn them into rhythm, like fate knocking at the door. And she composed, with her wounds. No paper needed, just memory, pain, and a heart that had never gone silent. One rainy March night, the Curtis Institute seemed to sink into a damp sleep. The window panes fogged with condensation. The long hallway was silent, save for the steady tapping of a white cane echoing against the marble floor. Amanda sat, curled up outside the advanced harmony class, a room she hadn't been allowed to enter all year. Her hair was wet from the rain. Her hands floated in the air, as if playing a piano. No sound, no keys, but each motion had its own rhythm, like a symphony only she could hear. Inside, Professor Liam Smith, a towering figure at Curtis, was gathering his notes. He was about to turn off the lights when he caught sight of her through the door's narrow window. A black, blind girl, playing with her imagination, and though her eyes saw nothing, they shimmered with something vividly alive. He said nothing. He just stood there, watching, in silence. Amanda had no idea someone was watching. She tilted her head and murmured, "Third section. Fugue. Fifth modulation." Her left hand gently pressed the air, perfectly in time with a transitional chord. Liam stepped out and quietly sat down beside her. No judgment, just asked, in a voice deep and gentle like a cello, "What do you hear?" Amanda paused for a second, then softly replied, "I'm imagining the fugue you just taught. The tonic's been pushed off tempo. I think it's trying to escape itself." Her answer left the veteran professor speechless. No paper, no piano, no eyesight. With only memory and her ears, this girl could read the soul of music. He didn't ask further. He just nodded. "Tomorrow, 6 a.m., basement storage room. Tell no one." From that day on, in the dusty basement of Curtis, between broken shelves and cobwebbed trumpet cases, began the unscheduled lessons. An old, upright piano, its left pedal jammed since 1982, a renowned professor, and a girl the entire school had forgotten. Liam didn't teach with theory. He told stories. A fugue isn't just a motif chasing itself. It's a composer searching for himself inside a maze. He tapped rhythms on her knee, taught Amanda to recognize string vibrations through the palms of her hands. Amanda didn't take notes. She listened with her whole body, with her breath, with a heart that had learned to absorb everything through silence. In the darkness of the basement, music returned to its true form. No skin color, no spotlight, no titles, only emotion. At Curtis, the elite music classes revolved around technique, circle of fifths, mixed meters, finger speed. But in the basement storage room, under flickering fluorescent lights, Professor Liam Smith didn't teach Amanda any of that. He didn't make her practice scales, didn't assign chord transcription, no sheet music, no metronome, only the heart, memory, and silence. "You don't need to read sheet music, Amanda," he said. "You're composing your own score, with the silence they forced you to grow used to." Liam taught her to feel rhythm not through a clock, but through her own heartbeat. He placed her hand on the piano lid and tapped low notes so she could sense the strings' vibration through the wood. Taught her to distinguish major from minor, not by ear, but by the shift of color in her chest. "D minor isn't sad," he said. "It's the feeling when someone leaves before you get to say goodbye." Amanda didn't learn with intellect. She learned with memory. Every key under her fingers was a character, a story. One time, while practicing a harmonic progression, she stopped midway. Liam asked, "Did you forget?" She shook her head. "Number, I just feel like this character hasn't finished speaking. I think he comes back and whispers something before leaving for good." She didn't play music. She told stories. Every piece she touched was never the same twice. Each time was a more honest version, fresher, more alive, like a painting redrawn from emotion, not memory. Professor Liam had taught hundreds of brilliant musicians, but he said, "No one has ever made me hear silence as clearly as Amanda." And so the secret lessons continued. The forgotten girl still walked steadily through the dark hallway, white cane in hand, quiet footsteps. No one knew that each step was an unwritten note. And then one day, music from that basement reached the outside, not because of Amanda, but because of someone no one expected. Curtis didn't see her, but the world had begun to hear. After months of practice in a dusty basement, Professor Liam Smith decided to submit Amanda for the Young Virtuoso Showcase, a prestigious music event where young talents are introduced to major producers around the world. Not for fame, but because he believed, this girl doesn't need a stage to shine. She is the stage. He didn't submit a flashy video, didn't include any pedigree names of influential parents. He sent only one recording, Amanda playing an improvised harmony, composed after a dream about her mother. No introduction, no biography, no portrait, just one line of description. Amanda Brown, 16 years old. She doesn't study music. She is music. A week later, a reply arrived from the organizers. Brief, cold. We appreciate your effort. However, Amanda has not been selected to perform. No explanation, no critique, no second chance. Liam clenched his fists. Amanda didn't react. She just smiled softly. I'm not sad. I just feel sorry for them. But what they didn't know, someone else had listened. Mr. Richard, the elderly gatekeeper of Curtis, ignored by most students, had accidentally witnessed Amanda's trial performance in a small room early in the morning. He didn't understand harmony, couldn't tell D minor from B flat, but he knew what it felt like when your heart skipped a beat. And when Amanda played Rachmaninoff from memory, with no sheet music, no instructor, no spotlight, he knew. He had just heard something that had never existed in this conservatory before. That evening, Richard quietly uploaded the video he had recorded on his old phone. No edits, no effects, just a title, typed with trembling hands. Blind black girl plays Rachmaninoff from memory, but Curtis rejected her. He pressed post, then sat there under the dim yellow light, unaware that he had just opened the door that would lead Amanda into the light. Amanda didn't need a spotlight. She had something else. The truth. Less than 24 hours after Mr. Richard posted the video, a music blogger from Berlin, who had stumbled upon it while scrolling through an old classical forum, shared the clip with the caption, "I don't know who this girl is, but I cried. Not because of the sound, but because of what music had forgotten. Soul." An Argentinian pianist who had lost the ability to play with both hands in an accident wrote, "It's been 15 years since I touched a piano. Tonight I will try again, because of a blind girl from some forgotten corner of Curtis." And then, the ripple turned into a tidal wave. The clip was shared hundreds of thousands of times. The hashtag #Amanda Brown flooded TikTok, Twitter, Reddit. No marketing campaign, no PR team, just one old, blurry video, but it shone brighter than anything else. A renowned composer in Tokyo said, "She doesn't play the piano. She lets her heart pour through every key." A deaf music teacher in Norway sent a handwritten letter. "I couldn't hear it all, but I could feel it. My hands trembled. I cried. Something that hasn't happened once in my 25 years of teaching." The front page of a major New York newspaper ran a bold headline, "If Curtis couldn't see the genius in this girl, then they are the ones who are blind." Even a Grammy-winning pianist, after watching the video, canceled a concert to fly to Philadelphia just to ask, "I want to meet this girl, not to teach, but to learn." The whole world, from small living rooms in Kenya to recording studios in Vienna, was listening to a piece of music with no name. But everyone understood what it meant. Amanda had no idea she was going viral. She still sat in her tiny dorm room at Curtis, still tapping imagined piano keys with her fingers. No social media, no newspapers. Not until Professor Liam walked in, holding a copy of the New York Times, his voice trembling. "Amanda, you just made the whole world listen." She looked up. "They heard me." "Really?" "Not just heard," he replied. "They felt you." When the organizers of the International Music Gala announced the lineup of opening performers, the entire music world was shaken. Not because of a familiar name, but because of Amanda Brown, the blind girl once rejected by Curtis, being invited to open on one of the most prestigious stages in the world. Immediately after Amanda, the next scheduled performer was Oliver Johnson, the living legend, and the very man who had once humiliated her in front of hundreds by saying, "She's going to ruin the Steinway." When he received the schedule, Oliver couldn't believe his eyes. He slammed his hand on the table. "I'm not playing after some untrained blind child. Reschedule this. I'm the one with a reputation here." The show's director, a French artist who had led 3 major music festivals, looked up at Oliver and calmly replied, "You can withdraw." But the girl will not. Dress rehearsal night. The stage was empty, the lights cold, no audience, only footsteps, the drag of electric cords, the sound of mic checks. Amanda appeared, still in her simple black dress, still barefoot, feeling the wooden floor. She needed no guide. Only the breath of the room and the rhythm of her own heart. She sat down at the Steinway. No sheet music, no conductor, no introduction. Then she played. Not Bach, not Rachmaninoff, but an improvisation that had never existed before. A piece with no name, no genre, no rules. A piece that contained all the pain that had once been silenced. The first note rang out like a cry from a dream, a memory no one had ever acknowledged. Her left hand pounded, like the footsteps she once took through Curtis's cold hallways. Her right hand trembled, but stayed steady, like a blind child touching light for the first time. The entire crew froze. The technician abandoned the control board. The lights stopped moving. Oliver Johnson, standing in the wings, stopped breathing. Because he knew. This wasn't a composition. It was an unspoken indictment. She didn't scream in anyone's face. She didn't have to. Her music was the evidence. As the final passage played, left hand holding a suspended chord, right hand silent, a long pause stretched across the room, as if the entire world were waiting to be forgiven. She lifted her hands from the keys. No bow, no apology. Because the one who should bow wasn't her. Amanda stood, her hand gently brushing the piano, the same piano she was once deemed unworthy to touch. And then she walked away, leaving behind a room full of people who once believed she never could. That evening, more than 60 countries broadcast the Humanity Music Gala live from New York. Crescendo Hall glowed in soft golden light. Hundreds of politicians, ambassadors, vocal legends, and composers sat still as statues. No one knew what they were about to witness. They only knew. The opening name was unfamiliar. Amanda Brown. She walked out. No diamond earrings. No lavish evening gown. No MC introduction. Just a black linen dress. A worn wooden flute, the last thing her mother left before vanishing from this world. And bare feet, pressing gently against the wooden stage as if awakening its soul. No cue was given. No count-in. No orchestra behind her. Just the sound of her sitting down at the piano, placing the flute softly beside her, then resting her hands on the keys, and playing. The music began, not with a grand harmony, but with a single note, like the first breath of a newborn. Then came the notes, like rain, not pouring, but persistent. Each one a scar, a forgotten whisper. Midway through, she lifted her hands from the keys and picked up the flute, that humble instrument never recognized in elite conservatories. She didn't rise, didn't seek to impress, just sat there, raised the flute to her lips, and played memories no one could translate. The sound wasn't perfect. Sometimes she lost breath. Sometimes the pitch wavered. But each note pierced the audience's chest, as if they were hearing the voice of a part of their heart that had never been named. An ambassador placed a hand on his chest. A world-famous cellist buried her face in her palms. A young girl in the choir whispered to her friend, "She's talking to me, even though she doesn't know my name." When Amanda set the flute down, the entire world fell silent. Not a single clap. Not because they didn't appreciate her, but because they didn't want to shatter what had just happened, like a sacred dream no one dared name. Then one person stood. Then a second. Then the entire hall. Not to applaud, but to bow. A bow not for a prodigy, not for an inspirational story, but for the music that had once been discarded. For a blind, black, unknown girl who dared to step forward and reopen the door the world had long slammed shut in her face. Amanda bowed in return. No smile. No tears. Just one sentence, softer than the wind. "Thank you for listening instead of looking." 1 week after the gala, a flood of invitations poured in. $1 million recording contracts from major labels, the cover of Time magazine, a TED Talk proposal, a world tour with the Vienna Symphony Orchestra. Amanda turned them all down. No press conferences, no interviews, no social media accounts. Just a single message sent to Professor Liam Smith. "Professor, music brought me into the light. Now it's my turn to bring it back into the darkness, where those no one listens to are still waiting to be heard." Amanda disappeared, left no trace. Some say she was seen in a small classroom in Chicago, teaching deaf children to feel rhythm through their footsteps. Others say she once visited a juvenile center, using finger taps to teach inmates how to compose beats. A blurry clip was shared online. A blind girl, hair loose, making music with plastic pipes and wooden spoons for a group of homeless people. No name, no clear face. Only one thing confirmed. Music was still alive and healing. While the world searched for Amanda in Philadelphia, where Curtis had once stood as the pinnacle of musical excellence, a quiet revolution began. The board of directors held an emergency meeting. After thousands of letters and 30,000 signatures from across the globe, from educators, artists, and social activists, the Curtis Institute was forced to change. A new wing was inaugurated. Bell Wing, the wing of free music. No glass doors, no golden nameplates, no tiered classrooms, no portraits of great men lining the hallways. Only rooms for students who can't read music theory but listen with their soul, with vibrating walls to help the deaf feel pitch, with spring-loaded wooden floors that allow children with disabilities to make music through movement, with silent spaces to learn how to listen to oneself. At the center of the courtyard, there was no statue of Amanda. There was no need. Only a white wall, with Braille embossed under the setting sun. Music doesn't require sight. Only someone brave enough to listen. Professor Liam Smith retired after giving his final lecture at Bell Wing. He didn't cry. He simply stood silently in front of the wall, placing his hand on the Braille as if touching the heart of a new generation. No one knows where Amanda is. Only rumors. In an old church in Kenya, they say a blind black girl teaches orphans to compose music by drawing rhythm lines in the sand. At a train station in Lisbon, someone heard the sound of a wooden flute echoing from behind the wall. No one saw the musician, only felt their own tears fall. A freshman at Curtis asked, "Will Amanda ever come back to accept her honorary degree?" The new professor at Bell Wing smiled. "She doesn't need to. Because she has already taught us what the world had forgotten. Not everyone in an old coat is invisible. Not everyone who sits in silence is without value. And sometimes, the one most mocked is the only one who can make the world go quiet to truly listen. Amanda Brown has left the stage. But in every silent classroom, every piano key touched by trembling hands, the music she left behind still plays, gentle, resilient, and needing no spotlight. Sometimes, the very limits the world assigns to us become the beginning of a miracle. Amanda didn't need eyes to see music. She only needed a brave heart and a world quiet enough to listen. This story doesn't just bring tears, it makes even the doubters bow their heads. What do you think? Does true talent require sight? Leave your comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Black Strength Stories so you never miss another soul-stirring tale.